Welcome to the show, Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. I got a real problem. I was in Philmont Scout Ranch for 12 days. That's when we were in the backcountry. We were there for a little over 2 weeks. And for whatever reason, this is going to sound crazy, I didn't drink any Diet Cokes when I was out there. But I, for some reason, have come back and started drinking this stuff like a fiend, like just an animal. You think it'd been beer or scotch or whiskey or that, or I don't know. I've been drinking some margaritas lately. I've really been enjoying that. But I'm like, geez, these Diet Cokes. If I'm going to have a vice, I guess this shouldn't be a bad one, right? So anyways, welcome to the show. So my oldest son, Cameron's a Boy Scout. Youngest son is a Cub Scout. And we did a 12-day trek in Philmont. Funny thing, ran into one of the guys in our mastermind. So ran into Jeff out there, which was hilarious because it's 220 square miles. The place is pretty big. And I knew he was going to be out there, but I didn't think our treks corresponded on the same date. And sure enough, like day 3, we're hiking, and I see Jeff. I'm like, hey, man, what's going on? And he wasn't the only guy I ran into out there. It was so weird. Just ran into people I knew. It was hilarious. But in any case, 12-day backpacking trip. We got one shower. So that was awesome. This thing is one of those backpacking trips where you carry 5 to 7 days of your food with you. You got to pack it all in. You got to pack it all out. I mean, it's a heck of a lot of fun. And no, there's not running water and restrooms at every single stop. So I'll let your minds play that little game. But in fact, we could talk about that if you guys really want. It's awesome. So in any case, it was a really great experience. We did about 100 miles and about 20,000 feet of elevation gain and loss. By day 3, we were camping somewhere between 10 and 11,000 feet. So here in Houston, we're at 0. That would be sea level. So we're at 0, and we were about 2 miles up by about day 3. And it was tough. I can tell you the elevation piece. We only had one person, one of the kids got a little elevation sickness when we got above 10,000 feet. But it was tough, and it was a lot of training, and a lot of the training paid off. Most days rained, so we would start out in the 60s or 70s. It would start raining, everything gets wet, and then at night we would get freezing rain because it was in the 30s and in some cases in the high 20s. So you could imagine going from shorts and a T-shirt to thermals, long underwear and long sleeve. I mean, it was just tough. It was a really tough environment. Their monsoon season came early. And here's the other problem. So Philmont Scout Ranch is in New Mexico. It's on the other side of the mountain range from Taos and Angel Fire. So for those of you who've been skiing before, you're probably familiar with those areas. But the other tough part was we couldn't have any campfires. The state of New Mexico has banned fires because this has been the worst drought in the state's history. And they've had some really crazy fires out there. In fact, we did a conservation project on the 4th or 5th day. We went out and helped the Forest Service go out and clear entire swaths of forest. We were chainsawing trees down and cutting them into piles so they could do the burn piles in the winter. I mean, it was a lot of work. So it wasn't just shooting black powder rifles and hiking 7, 8, 10 miles a day. We actually had some work that we had to do while we were out there. So great experience. For those of you who have done it, you know what it's like. It's pretty rare to have your dad get to go too. So it was pretty fun for Cameron and I to get to go, and he got to experience that with me. So we've done Philmont. Last year we did Northern Tier, and over spring break we're going to do Sea Base, and Sea Base is in the Florida Keys. So if you guys are familiar with that island, I can't remember the name of the island out there, but it's where all the really famous, this is like $50,000 a night island. It was where when Bill and Melinda Gates were splitting up, she took the yacht down there. It's a completely private island, like very, very secluded. It's only the rich of the rich. Anyways, the scout base is across from that. So it's kind of fun. From my understanding, you get to see all these crazy yachts. But in any case, we'll be down there, and my son and I will be scuba diving the entire time. And everyone's told me, this is like a vacation. The other two that you did, of course, are these really high adventure You got to do a lot of training, that sort of thing. But if you do all three, it's called the Triple Crown. So Cameron's going to get the Triple Crown by March, which will be really great. But when you're out there, since all you're doing is hiking around all day with 50 pounds on your back, you get a lot of time to reflect on some things. And one of the things I thought was pretty funny is I said, you know what? I'm not going to have cell phone service for about 2 weeks. It wasn't that bad, but it was about a week at a time. And my first thought was, man, I'm not going to be connected. I don't know what's going on in the market. And then my next thought was, I know exactly what's going on in the market because I've only predicted this thing for the last, 10 years now. And sure enough, when we got back to base camp, pulled up on my phone, I had a million messages, and I still haven't gotten through all the emails. So if y'all are sending me emails, I think I had almost 5,000 unread emails at one point. I'm trying to get through it. Most of it's garbage, but I've got a ton of emails. If you're sending me something and it's really important, send it to me again so it's at least at the top of my email list. But it was funny, when I got back to base camp and I started reading the news and catching up on the world, nothing had really changed in the last 2 weeks. There were more shootings, and there was Biden did this and Trump is doing that and Elon Musk is still screwing around with Twitter. I mean, it was all the same nonsense, but nothing really changed in 2 weeks. Like, nothing really changed. Oh no, the new GDP print is negative. I'm like, oh, so the Fed's finally being honest about what's going on. So the reality was there really wasn't a whole lot that I missed in the 2 weeks that I was gone. So, but while we're traipsing around out there, it gave me a little bit of a time to reflect on some things. And I think one of those things is we really begin to focus on things that aren't important. So it was funny. I had one of these calls. I called the gal that I'm dating right now, and she was like, being real sweet. She was like, "What do you miss most about being out there in the woods?" And I was like, running water in a shower, like, sitting on a toilet that doesn't have the possibility to bite you back. One of those. I was like, when you're out here and you're roughing it, the simplest things like electricity and running water are real nice. I was like, how about a steak dinner, something that's not dehydrated or made of like dried fruits and nuts? I was like, something, I need something a little more of substance. So, but, there were some other things too, and that is, you've got to be prepared when you're outdoors. And I know that's the Boy Scout motto, be prepared. But being prepared is so much more than just having stuff. It's recognizing risk. And I had this kind of epiphany, and I'm going to bring it up at the next talk. I think we're going to bring it up at the Red Talk, which is, I don't know, when's that Red Talk? August 4th. All right, so I'll bring it up at the August 4th Red Talk. And I hear this all the time from investors, like, oh, I'm getting infinite rate of return, 40% rate of return, 90% rate of return. I'm getting an infinite rate of return. Like, I'm a real estate investor that crushes it. And I'm like, okay, well, why aren't you rich? Like, really rich. Like, I don't know which color airplane I'm taking today, rich. We get back from the break, we'll talk about why that is. Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. What's all this stuff?
He did a show about 5 ways to get wealthy, or 5 ways to get wealthy in real estate, and he was taking notes throughout, so it was just chicken scratch throughout the show.
Okay.
I know, I forgot he did that, and I came around and was like, leave me a note, what is this?
What is this nonsense? All right, welcome back. Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. Bro, you don't understand. Like, I'm crushing it with Bitcoin. Oh, who's enjoying Bitcoin now? Boy, my Bit Bros got real quiet, didn't they? Bitcoin is not a currency. Bitcoin, which is fascinating, and I heard this from Bob Schiff, and he's absolutely right. Bitcoin trades like a tech stock on the way down and not on the way up. And I was like, oh, that's brilliant because it's true. My BitBoys are getting destroyed right now. I know it cracked 20,000. What's it at right now, Clayton? 19 and some change or something? I mean, it's awful. It's fluctuating 5 to 6% a day. It's at 20. Okay. Man, if those Bit Bros were so smart, I guess you should have sold at 60,000. guess you should have sold at 60K. I wonder who said that. We need to put together a clip library and just be able to put in all those clips of old shows. Probably should have sold that at 60 G's back in the day. I am hearing rumblings of a used car market crash. And I'm like, please, God, I need one of those. We need to go back to first generation NSXs you can get for like 30 and 40 G's. Actually, you could get them for as low as $20,000 back in the day. I want my Toyota Supra twin turbo for like 50, not 140. In fact, one just sold for over 200 on Bring a Trailer. I'm like, let's bring these. Y'all remember when we used to get Ferrari 360 Modenas for like 60 G's with a manual in them? Like, those were the days. We need a used car market crash so I can just go ahead and fill the garage up. But between you and I don't think that's going to happen. But I think they're talking about like used Hyundais and stuff. Nothing, and Hondas, like nothing cool. Although Honda did introduce a $175,000 Honda Civic, if you guys saw that. Absolutely crazy. It's a race edition, like for a real racetrack. It's a real legit race car. Anyways, $170,000. I was like, yeah, I don't think so, buddy. That's for somebody else. But in any case, so you talk to all these real estate investors and they talk about, oh man, bro, like I'm crushing it. I got an infinite rate of return. I got 90%, 70%. I'm like the king of real estate. And I had this thought while I was stomping around Philmont Scout Ranch. And I've heard these guys for years. And it sounds really great on Facebook, sounds great on Instagram when you're buying the newest Rolo, getting the new Rolo watch, bro, with the diamonds in it. I'm getting my next Lambo, and I'm like, okay, well, you got a little bit of money, but you're not really rich. Like, you're not plain rich. Like that, when you got a plane, all right, now you're doing pretty good. And it doesn't have to be a $50 million G7. Like, those Cessna makes some great little private aircraft. Citations, if you've ever seen a little Citation. Those are great. I like the Honda Jet, personally. I think that thing is super cool. So you don't need to have a $50 million plane. But what a private plane allows you to do is it almost turns your life into a time machine. Because you can go over, hey, let's go to Mexico today. Okay, we're going to fly into Cancun, and then we're going to go to Isla Mujeres. Or if your plane is small enough, you can actually fly from here to Isla. There's actually a little runway at Isla Mujeres. So you could literally call up, get the pilot. By the time it takes me to drive from here to wherever, let's say Sugarland Executive or West Houston, or even if you're flying out of Hobby, they could have the plane gassed up, pilots there, engines are running, you're walking on, boom, you're out the door. Now, obviously, most of these planes, with exception to like the really fast jets, don't fly as fast as commercial airlines, but there's no security check. You get on the plane, bang, you're wherever you want to be. And then if you want, oh man, I got to make a meeting tomorrow at, 11 a.m., and we're in Mexico. Well, you just jump on the plane, fly back, do your meeting, then fly back to Mexico. Like, it is literally a time machine. I had this really interesting discussion with the Boy Scouts one day, and we were talking about the only resource that matters, and that's time. And I set up a scenario where I said, all right, guys, you have two choices here. You can do this that saves you money, or you can do this that saves you time. Which one do you think they picked? The one that saves you money. You can always make more money, but you will never get back 1 second of time. Time is your only resource, the only one that matters. Time is the only resource. So if you have a choice between the two, you're always going to accelerate your time. So let's go back to real estate investors bragging about their returns and not flying planes and all that nonsense. Warren Buffett's returns for his entire career are less than 20%. It's like 19.6% per year. So why is he the second or third or fourth wealthiest man on the planet, and most real estate investors are not. I mean, 20% return in real estate is nothing. Like, that's really easy to get. But why is Warren Buffett one of the wealthiest people on the planet, and you as a real estate investor are not? Like, I think that's a really intelligent question to ask, because everyone brags about their returns. And I'm like, okay, what color's your plane? Oh, I don't have a plane. Oh, well, what color's your Lambo? I don't got a Lambo. I don't like Lambos. Well, what do you like? Oh, I like ranches. I like that. Okay, well, how big's your ranch? How many do you own? You know, we really like vacationing in Mexico. How many multi-million-dollar houses do you own in Mexico? Or the French Riviera? Or in, let's say, Coronado Island in San Diego? Oh, well, I don't own any of those. What do you mean you don't own them? I thought you're a real estate investor. You got infinite rates of return. If you're getting infinite rates of return, what's your net worth? Oh, it's only a few $1,000,000. I'm like, okay, well, somewhere you've screwed up here, because you're telling me you've got infinite rate of returns and your net worth is what again? But wait a second, Warren Buffett's rate of return is about 20%, and he's a gazillionaire. So clearly, it's not about bragging what your rate of return is. Because if Warren Buffett can become a gazillionaire at 20%, and you can't with higher rates of return, then there's something else at play here. I thought about that for 2 weeks. I need to go back and check and make sure that's what Warren Buffett's return is. I'm pretty sure. I remember reading an article years ago. It was about 19.6%. So Warren Buffett's making 19.6%, and you're making it infinite. Why are you driving a 10-year-old used Honda? Now, if that's really what you want, that's okay. But let's be honest, that's not really what most people want. So there's a real discussion here about if you were doing that well, if your returns were really that good, why aren't you as rich as Buffett? And some of you guys have been in real estate as long as Warren Buffett has been. So why aren't you wealthier? It's Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. I really ought to check that stat.
It looks like you're right.
I'm pretty close.
Yeah, what I'm seeing here looks pretty spot on.
I want to say it was like 19.6. Oh, here we go. Welcome to the show, Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. All right, this is from Barron's. From 1965 through 2021. I'm going to say that again. 1965 to 2021. That's how long Warren Buffett's been at it. From 1965 to 2021. Berkshire shares generated a compound annual return of 20%. Warren Buffett portfolio obtained a 9.64% compound annual return with a 13% standard deviation in the last 30 years. So that is Warren Buffett's return. It's about 20%. Well, Warren Buffett is one of the wealthiest men on this planet. And you're bragging at the real estate club online, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. I guess you do a goofy dance and say, infinite rate of return, bro. There we go. Yeah, infinite rate of return, bro. You got some rap video in the background about, making money and, making it rain at the club and all that nonsense. Why aren't you as wealthy as Warren Buffett? He only has a 20% return every year. Only. That's it. 20%. Now, he's been doing it for like 50 years, but 20% return. Why aren't you wealthier? So I'm traipsing all around New Mexico, Philmont Scout Ranch, with this one question in my mind. If I'm getting higher rates of return than Warren Buffett is, Why don't I have a plane parked out here at the Texas Real Estate Investment Center? So what is Warren Buffett doing that everyone else is trying to figure out? And he does one thing better than anybody else, except for the other guys that are richer than him, including Elon Musk. Elon, I want to say Elon's now, he's still the richest guy, right? It's either him or the Alibaba guy, which I don't believe for a second, by the way. I don't think that guy should even be on the list. It should be Elon. Elon's still, all right, Elon, whew, I know he's really worried about that. You know what's funny? For a guy who really doesn't care about, he really does not care about money. He does not care at all. And isn't it funny that he's the richest guy on the planet? There's another lesson to be learned there, probably not for today's show. But I'll say it this. I've been listening to a lot of things that Andrew Tate has been putting out lately. And one of my favorite things he says, because I've experienced this enough now, he goes, look, at some point you get so rich, everything's free. And I thought, that is interesting. He just ordered a new Bugatti Chiron and spent about $5 million on it. And he was like, look, he goes, I got to be honest with you. Like, I don't even know what all the options cost. I'm like, I want this, 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 and this. How much is it? $5 million. Okay, cool. Here's the wire. Like, there becomes a point when you become so wealthy, everything's free. That's real. That's what real wealth looks like. It's like, oh, we want to start a foundation. We need, $10 million. Oh, okay, cool. Where do I send the wire? That's what real wealth looks like. And I'll take it a step further. Not only is that what real wealth looks like, that's what real freedom looks like. And I'm just starting to experience that now. But I can tell you it's very interesting. It's a very interesting concept. If you're really living the abundance mentality, and if you've really got that level of wealth, it's like, hey, we want to go do X, Y, and Z. Okay, cool. When are we going? Okay, great. Let's get on the plane and go. Hey, my buddy's doing this benefit thing in Mexico. You want to go? Sure. Send me the booking information. Hey, how much did it cost? I have no clue. No idea. I just started paying attention to prices because everyone's been complaining about them. You should get to the point where you're so wealthy it doesn't matter. And not because you're so wealthy that, you're just too good to see how much stuff costs. It's because you have more important things to think about than what something costs. I've got this fleet of cars. In fact, the next Land Cruiser is supposed to be done this week. And I'm already at the point now where I'm like, all right, I got 4. I've got 3 more on order. So I'm going to have 7. And if you guys know, I'm not a big fan of really big houses. So I'm like, where am I going to put these things? So we made an offer on an office building. I kid you not. I made an offer on an office building for like $5 million because it had a warehouse in the back. And I'm like, oh, I bet I can store some cars in the warehouse. So now there's a pain in the rear factor of owning all this stuff. I think Andrew has like 30 cars. And I watched Jay Leno. He's got like 5 or 10 full-time guys that do nothing but just manage his fleet. And I'm like, I don't want to manage 10 dudes. I'm trying to make my life simple here. How about 1 or 2 cars? Like, I've already got too many. I'm going to have to reduce the fleet here. So why aren't you as rich as Warren Buffett? And I'll tell you the difference. Warren manages risk better than you do. He knows exactly what his investment criteria is. The theme of today's show is surrendering to the truth. When I hear someone talk about returns, I know they're an amateur. Very amateur. Oh, yeah, we offer our investors 7.9%. Now, we have to talk about our returns, like in our fund. But when someone brags about their returns, infinite rates of return, I'm making $5,000 a month cash flow on XYZ asset, I'm like, you're very amateur. Because the guys that are investing at a higher level do not care. No, don't get me wrong. They care about returns. But that's not the focus. The focus is on the risk. How do I ensure my investors are made whole if this deal goes south? What are the challenges we're going to run into that may reduce our return or produce a negative return? If that negative return occurs, how are we going to change our business plan from an operation standpoint, financing standpoint? How are we going to exit this deal through refinance or a sale? Amateurs talk about returns. That's all they talk about. Professionals talk about risk. I've been reading a lot of quarterly and annual reports lately, and that's where I've come up with the thesis that we are already in a recession. Restoration Hardware CEO had some really interesting comments about 3 weeks ago before I left town, and it was all based on risk. Hey, this is what we're seeing in the economy. This is how we're going to right-size our company. All of your sharp CEOs out there that enjoy their job right now are already looking at, okay, we're in a recession. How do we manage the risk? Their hope is that their returns to their investors will be the same, and the value and the services that they provide to their customers and clients will remain at that same level of quality for a similar price. But what they're really concerned about, what they're really managing is risk, an operational risk, and a financing risk. Interest rates have gone up. How do we manage that risk? Professionals talk about risk. Amateurs talk about rates of return and interest rates and all this other crap that does not matter in the grand scheme of things. It's all about risk. It's Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. All right, welcome back. Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. Do returns matter? Absolutely. But how much risk am I taking to get those returns? I get emails, text messages, DMs on social media hourly for apartment deals. I am inundated with this stuff. Every single day just pours into my inbox. And I've identified one risk area. One is one bedrooms and efficiencies, especially efficiencies. If you're going into an apartment complex that's 50% or greater, one bedrooms or efficiencies, I guarantee you there's a sign out in front of that apartment complex that says for lease and a phone number and an email address. It is permanently fixed to the outside of that building. Why is it always there? Because the turnover and efficiencies in 1-1s is way higher than 2 beds. So I get these, quote, great deals from wholesalers and other owners unloading these properties that have greater than 50% efficiencies in 1-1s. We don't really buy them anymore. They got to be dirt cheap for us to buy them. Dirt cheap. Because everybody wants a 2-bed. It's pretty simple. Most people have kids, they need a 2-bedroom. Pretty simple. So when I hear investors say, well, Jason, I'll look at any deal, it just kind of depends on the numbers. I'm like, the numbers don't show the risk. Yeah, it's an $800 a month rental. You're buying it for $50,000 a door, but your turnover is going to be like every 12 months you're going to be turning those units over. So there's an operational risk there versus a 2-bed where they stay 24 to 36 months. The reality is there's an operational risk that is not in the numbers. Oh, then we kind of back into, occupancy because we know those will turn over more. I'm like, no, I don't think you really do. I get all the pro formas. I don't see it in there. Everybody assumes 97% occupancy for an efficiency. I don't think so, dude. So why is Warren Buffett as wealthy as he is and you're not? It's real simple. It's not returns. It's risk. It's risk management. That's all it is. Amateurs talk about returns. Professionals talk about risk. And that's the truth. Could you take, let's say you are 100 pounds overweight. Could we get you shredded in a year? Oh, absolutely. Could we do it in 6 months? We could probably do it in a quarter. We could do it in a quarter. You're going to be pumped up with so many drugs. You're going to be working out so much. You're going to be eating the craziest food. But what's your relative risk? I mean, you could have a heart attack on that treadmill 4 weeks in. You could have an adverse reaction to some drugs that you're on. You could get a massive injury. Yeah, your returns will be great over the short term, assuming you make it, but you could put yourself in a really unhealthy position. I'm always a big fan of the bodybuilder community. And one of the things that you find there is in order to compete, you really got to get in like 5, 6, 7% body fat for guys. I mean, that's lean. When you get below 12%, 13%, you start having problems with your hormones. Start screwing up your testosterone production. So you're taking on some massive short-term risks for a short-term gain, which is okay if you're willing to. Most of these guys and gals are pretty serious. They know exactly what they're doing. But they're not looking at the returns. They're not looking at 5, 6% body fat. What they're looking at is how do we manage the risk? Hey, we got to do these things a couple weeks before. We're going to be grumpy because we're not allowed to eat anything. How do we manage risk? Amateurs talk about returns. Professionals talk about risk. Yes, the car can do 225 miles an hour. Should you do that on I-10 at 3 o'clock in the morning headed to San Antonio? Probably not a good idea. Now, 175 on the other hand, I mean, allegedly you can do that. Actually, you can do north of 200 allegedly out there too. Allegedly. Would you want to do that headed eastbound into Houston at 9 a.m.? No, because once you hit 99, you're going to go from 200 miles an hour to 0 real fast. It's all about risk management. It's not returns. And here's what I would argue. The reason returns don't matter is because you really don't have any control over it. Our returns right now look spectacular, in part because of appreciation. Appreciation is just quite simply, especially for real estate, because it's inflation adjusted, it's inflation plus increases in price from demand. So the returns look spectacular. But guess what? When you buy an apartment complex, you're going to have to rehab it. You got to do a make ready. You got to get the right operational team in there to be able to what? Rehab it, lease it, do a great job on the property management side. And then you've got to do a good job selling it. But all of those activities have inherent risks. One of the reasons the stock market, capital markets, Bitcoin, currencies, all that stuff are in complete turmoil is because you have no power over risk management. You are at the whim of buyers and sellers. There is nothing you can do. You are putting your life savings in the hands of a bunch of people who can't do anything to help your returns. I'm handing Apple money. Actually, I'm handing a seller of a stock, of Apple stock, for something I have no control over. And the scary thing is, you're handing your money over to a group of people, and then you're relying on them to help you retire, or to build a family fortune, or to build a foundation. That's what's so fascinating to me. When people say, well, Jason, real estate's risky. I'm like, real estate's risky? You got a few $1,000,000 with some goofball fund that somebody in HR said is a good thing for you to put your money in. And I've met a lot of folks in HR, and they don't know a damn thing about finance. But, Jason, I got this few $1,000,000 in this 401k over here. Yeah, today. I mean, most people have gotten obliterated the last couple of months. 20% losses? Oh, but it'll go back up. Yeah, but you lost 20%. You should have taken your money out, put it into some kind of mutual fund, money market, just let it sit there. You would have made 20%, then go back into the market and buy it back for 20% less. But you're not a good risk manager. That's what I'm saying. Warren Buffett made his billions at 20% returns. Now, your returns are higher in real estate, but why aren't you as rich as Warren? Simple. You can't operationalize something the size that he's got. You can't manage the risk in a big portfolio. And that's okay if you don't want to learn those skills, but don't expect to be as wealthy as he is. It's Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. Looky there.